Collaborating in the public space. What was the feeling in LA at the time of the pandemic? What did evolve you the time of the isolation? The answers for the questions and more on today's talk with Rita McBride. Talk and discussions. In this part of the project, Sleeping for Tomorrow, we'll meet different people around the world, sharing with us their opinion, ideas, and thoughts about the changing of our time and their hope for the future. Thank you for joining us today of celebrating our first year of Sleeping for Tomorrow, the digital part. We're going to talk today with Rita McBride, an American sculptor and an installation artist. She is a professor in the Kunstakademie Düsseldorf, where she served as its director from 2013 to 2017. Rita's sculpture often act on a meta level of sociological or cultural structure with reference to architecture and design, function and communication, often combined with performances and collaboration. Hi, Rita. Thank you for joining us for this talk today.
I'm honored and pleased to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Rita, can you tell us what is your general artistic approach?
In general, I'm looking at life, daily life, and looking for extraordinary circumstances and even banal ones as extraordinary. And I'm looking for moments where there's a lot of humor in the fabric of our daily lives. Maybe that's an architectural building or an intervention, of a plant that arrives somewhere in a very unlikely place, or it's a new car design. I'm looking my eyes open every day and enjoying and hating many things that I see and feel. And I work from those emotions, and then I start to distill them and make them into kind of essential objects often, but not so much objects, or there's a kind of essence to these ideas that are conceptually based, that come from emotion. And then I try to translate them into the visual world. And I tend to like not images, but materials, actual materials that I'm molding these ideas into a visual language that hopefully is communicating some complicated things, some very simple things, sort of a range of recognition, I guess, or making visible certain things that maybe are not visible otherwise. Beginning with parking garages, I find them absurd structures. This is a work I started in the late 80s, making the kind of structure of a parking garage, which is simple slab architecture from modernism. And I saw it as a perfect, emblem, maybe is the word for modernism and capitalism. So it's just basically built there, has its dimensions based on a car, and and it's like a cash machine. It just gets money from parking the cars, and it has no other identity. But everyone is so upset about getting a parking spot all the time. I mean, it's such a fetish activity, like, where am I going to park my car? So I found that absurd, because it should be then like something incredibly special, not just a place where you put money in the machine so that you can put it there. And I also really recognize that there's such a disconnect walking into, let's say, a shop that has an adjacent parking structure, and the door is like walking into a basement. So it's sort of like somebody not really recognizing that you're walking into a place. Then, like, this kind of, that made it very autonomous and very interesting for me. And they're the same all around the world. So this was like, I mean, there certainly were older ones, like in Europe, and some amazing, beautifully elaborate parking garages. But for the most part, mid-century, we started doing these kind of very obvious structures, and then going to like big structures like stadiums, and a piece called Arena, which was also introduced in my vocabulary in the late 90s, I guess 1997. It was a modular tribune structure idea I had that would take a whole space and become its own space of activity. So if I was showing in an institution, this would take over the wall space. It would become the architecture of activity. And I did program all these years that the Arena has been all around the world. and it has been programmed with local interesting people, politicians. I invited other people to invite, the institution often invites. So it's really was a way of understanding the world for me in a kind of democratic structure that's gathering people and ideas and exchange.
In your work, we talk about collaboration in public space. Can you share with us how your work evolved and started?
It's a great question. I just was remembering that, like, when I was in 1978, so I was 18, I made a design for a competition for a public work in my hometown, Des Moines, Iowa. And it was so ambitious. And so I think I was always thinking in such large, ambitious terms, also wanting to be in public. So it was never about an intimate relationship to visualizing things and making things happen. And it was always about a larger than me situation. So of course, I'm going to be collaborating. So over the years, I really built a process that welcomes collaboration and sort of understands it as an organic form that, you know, evolves, and how to feed the, you know, the organism and when to stop it, or when, like, so I've gotten a lot of pleasure out of working collaboratively, only pleasure, some frustration, obviously, but you know, in the end, I mean, I think that working with public artworks is incredibly hard, actually. But I believe so much in the process, and I believe that all the suggestions and the problems and the public opinions do make the work. And so it's part of working, like for me, that's working in the studio, is like working with a public institution and trying to get something that will work for everyone. You know, everyone's a little bit afraid. And so everyone doesn't know if they want that. In Munich, Mae West was 52-meter carbon structure that's never been made like that before. So everyone was very nervous. You know, if you made it out of steel, we would know what the engineering could be for that or whatever very easily. So this took a lot more patience. And, you know, when there's time running by, you also, a lot of politics come in, and then the conversations get diluted and they get kind of crazy and funny, and weird cartoons show up in the newspapers. And I'm all very proud of this big, very big sculpture. And now they love it in Munich. So it changed the opinion enormously over just being there and like getting meaning. And that was always my idea also, that I didn't put my thing there, but it's growing from everyone in that structure of Munich.
Can you share with us some more examples of working in a public space?
Mönchengladbach, that was a really great process, where there's donkeys' ways. So there's bronze donkeys in the central plaza area of Mönchengladbach, a small, wonderful town, actually. And the other one I'm very proud of is I love the obelisk that is in Cologne. The train station is also out of carbon. That was really full of funny stories. Like we didn't know, I mean, part of why I chose carbon for that is that I needed to not make a heavy thing, because we couldn't get to make a foundation like far enough down, because every time we opened a hole in the street, we found like a Roman ruin or some kind of conduit of piping or plumbing that we didn't know who it belonged to. And it was just like, and so for like 3 years, we'd go and open this hole, stare at it, and then like close it up again. And I was happy to work with carbon, because then I didn't have to have a big foundation going down. And I'm very proud of the way that that works in that space, in the roundabout next to the train station. And there's another obelisk in the Ruhrgebiet, that on the Emscher, which I also very, very proud of.
In this part of the conversation, we're going to talk about the time of the pandemic and its effects. Can you share with us, from your observation, what happened in the United States at the time of the pandemic?
It's actually, as you asked me, it's quite emotional. I think it was in Los Angeles, a very, very sad time for the city. I mean, you could feel the sadness in the air, not to mention the numbers of people dying. And this was something I had never experienced, like so much feeling of death, really death. And and how quiet and yeah, also just empty. Very, very, how can such a huge metropolis be so quiet, except for sirens bringing sick people, that were going to die, and realizing just how fragile everything is. So our medical system is fragile, our housing is fragile. And so it was very, very sad in Los Angeles. I also felt that in New York when I visited, like a city that has enormous amount of spirit, was just really devastated. And then revisiting New York, I mean, it came back really lively, and so did LA. And I'm kind of very sad that actually nothing changed. So all these problems that were quite exposed did not change the opinion of a lot of our politics. And so now that this is the biggest disappointment. I think we learned so much, and we saw how fragile the whole thing is, life is, but yet people are really just want it back to the way it was, and even more so, and this made me feel like I'm really very weird then as a human. And maybe this artist perspective on life is just missing something that everyone's insisting on. And that's kind of been mentally difficult to reckon. It also really exposed that artists and culture are not really relevant in the U.S. So, the government was giving money and through the banks, and you type in to get on the webpage, and then it would give you these different like what your job was. But there was nothing, not even for curators or filmmakers in LA, like nothing creative, nothing. Couldn't even click on a category. We didn't even exist. And museums shut down, and they did not open. And the government shut museums down, I mean, which we all felt was a little bit ridiculous, because there's not huge crowds going there anyway. And so possible, you can be socially distanced in museums much more easily than other places. But so we really recognize that we're very, very low on the importance of what most people consider a society. So this was also really shocking for most. Really, it was that bad. We knew we were on the edges, but never, I think we've been able to be supported by wealthy Americans who are generous with their philanthropy towards culture. So all the institutions are gifted money and operating budgets. So the government has never been a big partner in culture. And then you just see that, wow, when rich people don't want, feel insecure or don't want to support something, then we're nothing. And that was hard to recognize. All my shows got postponed. I had a very active year coming up, and so that was kind of okay, and then I still haven't done those shows yet. So because there was such a backlog, and it's really interesting, different momentum, or trying to keep momentum and a process going with so many disruptions. So that I'm learning how to do it.
I would like to ask, did you felt any changes in the art community of the time of the pandemic?
Well, I wish I could say yes, but I don't think that's true here in the US. I think it was pretty much, yeah, everyone was out for their own, watching their own backs. Yeah. I mean, I think if it was just homelessness or like that, I don't know, maybe there was a fire or an earthquake, there would have been kindness around a lot more, because I think humans are naturally kind. In fact, I do believe in humans. But Corona was maybe so badly handled, everyone was afraid of getting sick from each other. So that caused a lot of animosity, and no expression of compassion was possible. Like in this, and yeah, I think the fear factor was really, really strong for one's own health.
In this time of isolation, when everybody are in the house by themselves, which kind of new opportunities evolve in your work and by working?
Well, I came I came back with Glen, my husband of 33 years, who's a painter, and we had been working together during COVID in the same studio daily. That we only saw each other, and we decided to do a show together, which we have never done. I mean, we've been in group shows maybe, but this was a show that was conceived for the two of us to do together in Zurich. So we came back to installing right away in Zurich, and it was so beautiful, like to be able to see the work in public and to see how well it was called Suite Matrimonial at the My 36 Gallery in Zurich, and where both of us have worked for a long time. So it was a kind of reuniting of many things in a way, and also like how close our vocabulary, even though Glen's a landscape painter and I'm making sculptures and objects and big public things. I think we were just so happy to be in public again and to see everyone and to have the works together. And it was a generous moment. Felt like everyone was super generous with emotions, like positive emotions, and really getting into the work and really looking and really wanting to see it. There was such a different way of looking than before. I mean, people would race through galleries, they really stayed now. And so that is gone now. Actually, everyone's back into racing around, but it was a really beautiful kind of re-entry. And so last year it was beautiful. I enjoyed a lot and I got to meet people when I came back to Europe that I was working with in Zoom, like on competitions, architectural or public Kunst am Bau projects. And I never met these architects I was working with, and got to see them in person, went to their office. We had such a lovely process on Zoom. I mean, saved me, like such intelligence and such to be able to communicate.
Can you share with us a significant moment that happened to you in this time?
It's sort of like a realization that, a lot of anxiety lifted, and I don't really know why. Like, it was sort of like, it's all going to be okay. And like, there's like, I never felt that way in my life, like that it's all going to be okay, basically. But I don't know what precipitated this, this really nice feeling. And I feel shoulders got so much lighter. I wasn't carrying myself around anymore. It could have, I don't know, it could have been that I had a very amazing gyrokinesis class, which is a series of movements that I am religious about, based in Tai Chi and yoga. It's continuous movement generated by the spine, of which I'm a teacher trainer also, proud to say. And I also share that with the students at the academy. But we had an amazing, yesterday with the students, an amazing class, probably opened up some amazing energetic channel that was blocked before. Often with gyrokinesis, I can start to cry. It has a huge emotional effect, actually. And then when you get that energy going and everything's connected, movement is super easy. It's like floating or dancing all night. And it definitely has brought me like a lot of realizations that are mind body related. And I think to be an artist, you need that kind of relationship to be vital.
Subscribe below or in the website www.sleepingfortomorrow to get the latest notification and about the second part of the talk with Rita McBride, when she will continue sharing with us her experience and point of view of our time, and see a small glimpse of her upcoming project next year.